I mean, this summit was kind of, meant to be a real flagship, wasn't it, for Labour, after just over 100 days. The flags are looking pretty tattered. I mean, this P&O row, to begin with, I mean, what a start.
Hang on, but they're going. Their DP World, their Dubai
but can you imagine the clouds of embarrassment that will float above them?
Yeah, they're going after an intervention.
Yeah, but they're going with their $1 billion investment. Look, I'm pleased Britain's open to investment, open to business, but only good business and good investment. And if you're going to sack unlawfully, brutally, 800 British seafarers to replace them with cheap foreign labour below the minimum wage, then I'm sorry, you should not be invited. You've got to call it. You've got to call it out.
They were invited.
Call it out.
So you don't want them there, and you don't want the £1 billion they're going to invest in Britain.
I would have them there, but I would tell them that behaviour is unacceptable.
Would you take the £1 billion?
The law is going to be
the law
is going to be changed, so they can't do it again.
Yeah.
About the investment that it's supposed to attract. I mean, it's a bit like inviting somebody to a party and as they come through the door, telling them that they smell.
Richard, you know these people invest because they're going to make big profits, right? DP World, Dubai-owned, also owned P&O Ferries, are going to put £1 billion in what's called London Gateway, big dock development, because they're going to make a lot of money. Now, if they're going to make a lot of money and we're going to get jobs from that and hopefully some tax down it, they've still got to behave well. That includes to the workers, it includes to the environment, it includes to everybody.
All right, Andrew, for the prosecution.
Well, the point is, cabinet ministers have to behave well too.
Yeah.
And when they're in opposition, you can say one thing. When you're in cabinet, I'm afraid the rules of engagement change. Your language has to be different. Hang on, Kevin. She's the Secretary of State for Transport. She was asked about P&O. She said they're a road company about to invest £1 billion, announcing the summit today. I boycotted them for 2 years. When you're a cabinet minister, you have to moderate your language.
So this is Louise Haigh, who is the Transport Secretary. Let's have a listen to what she said when she was asked about P&O.
They're a rogue operator. We're cracking down on the way that they've treated employees, and we want to see them mirror the standards of other operators that come in and out of Great Britain's waters.
Would you travel with P&O Ferries?
No, I've been boycotting P&O Ferries for 2.5 years, and I'd encourage consumers to do the same.
The trouble is, you can't be a cabinet minister, a member of the government, on the day of an investment summit and tell customers to boycott companies you're hoping are going to spend £1 billion.
That's where she lost it completely at the end. If she has her personal boycott, that's one thing. Telling people to boycott this company that's about to come into Britain, spend £1 billion, potentially thousands of jobs,
Kevin,
that is reckless.
Hang on.
Doesn't it strike as a bit juvenile?
But do you know...
It's a bit student politics,
Was it juvenile, and Richard, when Grant Shapps, the UK Transport Secretary, who was a Conservative in 2022... When
talking
P&O,
about Labour, Kevin.
When he said boycott P&O, he said boycott P&O. It's there. It's on the record. You can see it. I don't know.
But if you're a juvenile then, and your government has invited that company to this crucial...
Was it juvenile then, or is it only juvenile because it's Labour? It's not juvenile if it's a Conservative cabinet minister, but it's juvenile if it's Labour.
There was no £1 billion. There was no major investment.
Was it juvenile with Grant Shapps? Was it? No, you're not saying it, but you're saying it about Labour.
OK.
Come on.
So,
I mean, there's no consistency there.
At the time, there was universal criticism, of course, of P&O. Was it then not discovered that actually they hadn't acted unlawfully, but they'd exploited a loophole? The government has now stepped in to close that loophole, and therefore to continue saying we're asking people to boycott that company is where it becomes a problem.
No, because it became quite clear under the inquiries, including the Business Committee in the Commons, that P&O had calculated the fines they would get for breaking employment law and the compensation they would have to pay was just a cost of business to them. They knowingly broke the law when they got rid of those people, but they knew the damage, right? Employment tribunals
would you have,
down the line.
Would you have not invited them? Would you have not invited them to this conference?
I would invite people, but I would
tell them off.
Yes.
And then insult them.
I would know.
You can't expect them to invest money if you sit there shouting at them.
Yes, you can, and they are still going. and they are still investing.
And by the way,
they're still going, they're still investing, but you're telling them you've got to behave.
Not said, the Prime Minister is disassociated from what she said, so is the Business Secretary. Every minister who was put out on the broadcast around the weekend was told, disassociate publicly from what the Transport Secretary by saying, and I'm recommending everybody boycotts P&O. If everybody took the P&O, the Transport Secretary's advice, P&O would go bust.
So what they said is that's not government policy.
Thousands of jobs gone.
Yeah, thousands of now French, because, of course, they replaced them with people on under £5 an hour.
Yep.
And they're now discovering flying them around the world to exploit them at under £5 an hour. It doesn't really save you money in the end, because you've got lots of other costs.
So
they started re-employing
Kevin,
seafarers in France, but not in Britain.
So is Keir Starmer letting down those P&O workers?
I think he should have been firmer. I think he should have stuck to what he said in 2022 when we saw earlier. You showed him denouncing the mass sackings,
when he was in opposition.
Mass sackings, and he should have been saying they should be giving some of these people their jobs back.
OK, so you think in this situation today, on the day of the government's investment summit, when it wants to encourage companies, international corporations, to invest billions here, you think he should have said, and I'm going to use today to enforce my principle that P&O did the wrong thing, and unless they rehire those workers, they are refused access to this summit?
No. You get people in and you tell them you've got to behave properly. You keep putting pressure on them. But the whole summit is just not about this. All right, I can see. No, it's not.
It's become so.
It's £1 billion. It's a lot of money.
And it's being invested. It's going ahead. It's not been pulled. It's not sunk. But there are a lot of...
But you're accusing the Prime Minister of reneging on his principles.
I think he should be firmer. I think he should be firmer on how he treats P&O. Yes, but you remember this summit is much wider. There's a lot of other companies from around the world, a lot of other banks. It's not all about P&O, DP World, the Dubai-owned...
And talking about the other invitees, why no invitation to Elon Musk?
The world's richest man.
The world's richest man. He's got so much money to invest.
Tesla, hugely successful.
Tesla,
hugely successful.
When he's done something like this, let's remind ourselves, this extraordinary feat of engineering, rocketry, over the weekend. This first stage rocket, which one day will go to Mars, huge thing, biggest rocket ever launched from the planet.
We're not reversing the pictures.
We're not reversing the pictures.
Amazing,
it came back down in one piece and landed safe and sound in what they call the chopsticks manoeuvre. An extraordinary historic feat, a technical feat. Now, Elon Musk is personally responsible for that kind of investment, that kind of success. Why not invite him to the summit?
Because you'd effectively be inviting Donald Trump at the moment because of the highly charged position politically.
Well, Keir Starmer had a meal with Donald Trump quite recently
in the States, but he hasn't invited him to his summit. Well, you wouldn't be getting Elon Musk at the moment there as an entrepreneur, an industrialist.
Well, we didn't. Don't think we invited him. I don't think we invited him. And we should have.
We didn't invite him.
He's one of the most successful creators in the world. Kevin may not like his politics. He may not like the fact he appears to be endorsing Trump. But if he wants to spend his buck here, let him.
Well, does he want to spend his buck here?
Well, let's see. Why don't we invite him and ask him?
Does he? I suspect he doesn't.
You don't know.
Which is one of the reasons he hasn't been invited. One of the other reasons. Because there'll be lots of people around the world who haven't been invited. You can't have everyone.
The fact is, this lot have got to realise they're not in opposition anymore. They've got to start behaving like a grown-up government.
But does it look, Kevin, like they've made a political decision on P&O and a political decision on Elon Musk?
I think if Elon Musk was about to open a Tesla factory in Wolverhampton, he would be there.
Imagine that.
But he's not.
No, but why not invite him and encourage him and show what you could do to make that work for him?
We're playing fantasy business here, but I'll go along with your fantasy business. You could be just picking people around the world and saying, come here, but you've got no plans to invest.
He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet.
Yes.
And he likes Britain. He's got a lot to say about Britain. I'd have had him here like a shot.
And he makes the P&O people look like kiddies. I mean, come on. I mean, the bloke is vile. He's got a terrible record with his workers in the US. The number he's sacked. Look what he's done to Twitter, now called X. And how many people he got rid of there, brutally.
Do you think they were worried he might shoot his mouth off?
I'm sure that's
and what, be an embarrassment at the party?
I'm sure turn it into a Trump rally.
Like the Transport Secretary?
Rather than...
Shooting her mouth off?
She was addressing a real pertinent issue which will strike a chord with a lot of people in Britain about how people are treated at work and be treated incredibly badly. If you were one of the 800 seafarers sacked that way, you wouldn't be saying what you are now.
Yeah, and of course, enormous sympathy for those, and you know, they feel very badly treated. And I think that it would have been all right if she had stood on her principles and said, we thought it was totally unreasonable what they did. It was the use of the word boycott. Yeah. Because I can imagine that if businesses come here and they go to the summit and they want people to invest, they don't want to hear a cabinet minister saying boycott.
That's right.
Their business.
So therefore, we're criticising the cabinet minister for putting their words into action.
All right. Talking about people not coming to parties, our king is going to Australia next week, and there's this huge party base, a massive bash in Canberra, and all these state premiers have been invited, all 6 of them, and every single one is busy doing something else. Oh, it's a real snub.
It is. It's very disappointing because he's going along. It's a long way, long flight. He is the king of Australia still. He wants to keep the monarchy alive and flourishing.
And
in Australia.
apparently they still want him. A new poll has just come out which shows that actually increasing numbers of Australians support the monarchy.
Yeah,
they actually quite like our king.
He'll see the main Prime Minister of Australia, who is a Republican, but I think it's just disrespectful.
This is your paper's big story this morning. It's a slap in the face to the king that the most senior politicians in each state refusing to go and see the king. Is it because they're all Republicans and they don't want him to be monarch anymore?
No, some of them will see him individually as he goes round, but they just can't be bothered to go to this big... Well, they've got other things to do. One's got a campaign, one's on a trade mission,
someone's got to mow the lawn,
one's got a cabinet meeting.
How many more times will the king go to Australia?
This may well be his last one.
Oh, come on,
I would think it is.
And all 6 of them. They must have spoken.
They have, of course they have.
And the slap in the face is what the monarchists of Australia say. But I mean...
Well, here's one of them. Let's have a quick look.
Let's be honest,
this is an Australian
he's not his mum.
This is an Australian MP, very angry about it. Let's have a look.
I think it's a monumental slap in the face. It's an insult to the monarch, and it's totally unnecessary. It's not about whether you're a Republican or a monarchist. It's about showing respect for the system of democracy that we have in this country.
Got a point, didn't she?
Yes. I would think democracy and a hereditary monarch always don't go together rather well in a
part of our unwritten constitution.
Well, we've rubbed along pretty well, Kevin.
Let's be honest, though, right? The fact is he isn't his mother and hasn't got the pulling power.
Do you think if it had been the late Queen previously?
I wonder if it would have been different. But if you look across the Commonwealth, 56 members, he's head of state in 14. Including Australia, but he's not in 42. It's only going one way, isn't it? It's a huge continent in itself. Do you want to spend hours and hours just going off to stand in a corner as he goes round?
Well, if they might have come for the Queen, the late Queen, do you think they would have come for Kate and William?
Yeah. Box office.
Because that's box office showbiz, isn't it?
Office. I also think that they're making a mistake because this bit of history here. This could be the last visit to Australia by the monarch, the first king in this country since 52, and they should be there because they are representing a large part of the population which will continue to support the monarchy.
They might have gone for Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
As well as Kate and
Who?
I mean, he's a man. He's got it late, and he hasn't got the pulling power. And
if you were invited to a reception with the king, Kevin, what would you do?
If I was invited and it was straight work, I would go. If it was to go and be patronised, I wouldn't.
Why would it be patronising?
Well, you just go along and you sort of bow when he walks past you.
Because you're a Republican.
Yeah. If I went to
Kevin, you don't have to bow.
If I went to interview him, I would go. Of course I would. Yes. And it'd be very, very polite.
You don't have to bow.
But I would not.
You don't have to bow.
Why do you prefer
That's
a curtsy?
All gone. That's all gone. That's all gone.
Andrew, have you been invited to meet the king?
Not since he's been king, but I've been to the palace since the change, and it felt odd knowing that she wasn't there anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. It really did.
I mean, I've met him like you a couple of times before he was king.
Yeah.
He's a very charming person.
Yeah, as is the Queen.
Yeah, and it's a lovely opportunity, and I just think, for your grandchildren to know that you have met the king. It's such a moment.
You'll have had it. When people ask you, have you met any famous people, the one they always wanted to know is, Did you meet the Queen?
Yeah, and I never met the Queen. I would have loved to have met the Queen.
Yeah.
Charlie came to... it was the...
Do you mean
the understudy?
You mean the King?
Yeah, all right. But
He's not called Charlie.
His Majesty.
He came along to the Daily Mirror's Pride of Britain Awards.
Yes.
Mirror bigwigs were lined up to meet him. There wasn't space for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet you wanted to.
Can we talk about the story that began to break last night? And it's all over the American networks this morning. What looks like potentially a third assassination attempt, but nipped very early in the bud against ex-President Trump, would-be President Trump. Guy stopped in his car.
Yeah.
False documents, seemed to be heading to a rally that Trump was going to address, and also had weapons with him, illegal weapons. He's been charged, he'll be appearing in court, and the police there say they think they foiled a third assassination attempt. Now, they can't prove that yet, but they think that
he was posing as a journalist too, so he'd gone to quite an elaborate attempt. It's very worrying because they got very close before, and they could get close again.
Well, they clipped his ear.
Exactly.
The first time. And then the second time he was playing golf and a security...
The gun was literally coming out of the bush. How did they get that? How did he get that close? These people are just getting too close to him.
I know this may not be as serious as the other two attempts because he had a handgun and a shotgun, as you say. He was stopped half a mile out.
Well, that's not
He says
far.
he's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
He's linked to very right-wing US groups who believe in, the law
right
doesn't
to
apply to them.
The group he belongs to says that you don't have to obey any law that you personally didn't support.
But he's been bailed for $5,000, which in US terms is very low. But it is worrying that it almost get copycat.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that's what's going on?
Well, and there's so many wretched people in America have guns. That's part of the problem, isn't it?
Well, I'm looking forward to Donald Trump calling for gun control.
What did Biden do about it? Nothing. What did any of them do about it? Nothing.
No. But Biden
Successive
calls for it. You've got to
presidents.
be able to get it through Congress, which is incredibly difficult.
Well,
but Trump doesn't believe in it anyway. And look, I would have thought, given the risk he's at,
you'll get Trump now saying, I'm not going to be intimidated. This will play to his strengths again, Trump.
Yeah.
This will raise his popularity.
Just very quickly, if the attempt that came incredibly close, the bullet that actually clipped his ear, just supposing that had been successful, who do you think would have been his successor as the candidate for the Republicans?
Well, had he chosen Vance by then? He had, hadn't he?
Vance.
You think Vance?
Possibly.
J.D. Vance, who is his
running mate.
presidential candidate.
I don't know how the Republican Party works in those circumstances on how they select somebody. I wonder if you bumped up the vice president of the
polls, the most recent
but...
polls are showing he's beginning to edge ahead.
Yes, I read that
never,
weekend as well.
ever write
No.
Absolutely. Beginning to in the key states where he's got to do well.
I was re-watching our 2016 American election coverage, where, of course, Hillary Clinton thought she had it in the bag.
Yeah.
And we were out in New York reporting, and you could literally feel the atmosphere change in that city as the aides to Hillary Clinton realised that you couldn't get to where she needed to be. And, in fact, the party, it was like the balloons were deflating at her party.
Incredible.
And eventually, her spokesperson said she's not even going to turn up.
Yeah.
Not even going to turn up and concede.
Which was unprecedented. We didn't see it for 24 hours.
Do you think that's because she insulted the electorate? What did she call it?
Basket of deplorables.
Terrible
That's
thing
right,
to
the
say.
deplorables.
So I just wonder whether this is a rerun of that election where you've got Kamala Harris, who would be the first American woman president.
Yeah. First woman of colour.
Yeah. And then you've got Trump, who media commentators don't take seriously. Is he going to?
Well, it is, but Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. She got
that's
5
not
or 6.
how it works.
No, that's exactly it. And there's those 7 key states.
Yeah, well, that's where he's doing well.
That's why it is difficult to call.
Well, speaking of comebacks, who knows? Trump, you say he's edging in the lead. Boris has given an interview to The Sun today.
How many interviews has Boris given now?
He's got a book to sell.
Has he got a book?
Yeah.
He's kept that quiet.
He's
738 pages of it, and I'm still on page 73.
Do you know...
He's hinted pretty strongly in The Sun today that he's interested in coming back.
Yeah.
Ask him nicely.
Yeah.
He will.
Do you know in his book, I pointed this out in my column today, he mentions his dog Dylan more than he mentions his chance of the Exchequer.
Still able to be given a chance.
Yeah.
Of course, he's not given up. He's not even 60. There's still a huge swell of popularity for Boris Johnson in parts of the country. Well, you may laugh, Kevin, there is. He's got charisma, something that the Prime Minister...
Have they forgiven him for Partygate, do you think?
I don't know that some people will ever forgive him for that. No. But he's got oodles of charisma, something the Prime Minister, his Prime Minister, lacks completely. But he hasn't got a seat. There's no by-election coming up, and by-elections are very difficult.
He was never on the precipice of greatness. He'll be forever tainted by Partygate and all the other lying, and actually Brexit not working, not being what he'd sold it as. But he's got to stay in play. He's got to try and make himself relevant, which is why you never say no. Almost all politicians do that. But I don't think it's serious about him being Prime Minister again, because he would have to win a seat. He'd have to be in the...
He still thinks he can do it.
Leader.
He said he was watching... He's in the interview, he says he was watching the Conservatives' campaign in the election just gone with his head in his hands.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to pick up the phone and ring Rishi and say, no, that's not how you do it.
You know, who are the big figures? Is it Robert Kennedy Badenoch, or is it Boris Johnson?
Well,
if you had a poll, people would probably say
Kevin,
Boris Johnson.
Honestly, I find it extraordinary that the Conservative Party still don't have a leader. Was it a massive error that they gave this huge run-in time to the final election of their new leader?
No, I think in a 5-year span it doesn't matter. A government comes in, well, Labour's done pretty good at punching itself in the face a fair bit over winter fuel allowance and freebies. So I don't think it really matters. I think that I'm not sure they've done enough hard thinking about what they stand for, who they are, who they're going to appeal to. It looks like they've just, once they got rid of James cleverly, all of a sudden it's just like let's just be like
whoever
Farage, without the beery charm.
Whoever wins, their biggest task will be how do they get their voice heard.
Talking about hearing voices, have you heard about this AI scam? Now, the Help Me Mum scam is a WhatsApp scam, which I got texted, which is where you get a message from someone on a number you don't recognise, but the person says, it's me, your child, I'm in trouble, I'm using someone else's phone. Please, can you send me money, or can you text this number or change your contact in my phone? And then, of course, because you're worried about them and you do that, you could then get scammed into sending money. Well, now, with deep fake audio files, apparently AI technology is taking little bits of your child's audio from perhaps if they've posted an Instagram video or they're gaming online, and they can turn it into an audio message where your child seems to ring you and say...
What, on a voicemail?
Mum. No, ring you.
Actually
ring
pick up
you.
and you hear this recorded message?
Yeah. No, you hear what you think is your child speaking to you. It's not recorded.
But if you speak back, presumably they can't respond to
Yeah, no, that they can then interact with you. So...
Oh, my God.
The advice is have a special code message that AI would not know. So if you say something like...
I respect you, Dad.
something...
I love you, Mum.
Yeah. Or what's your middle name? Something that the AI wouldn't know. Or where are you currently working? Or just have some kind of safe word or phrase.
It's a really clever idea.
That you can use.
A really big...
Because how alarming would it be? You would get panicked. This is the way these scams work, is that you get panicked into acting.
You would, and you would feel absolutely terrible if it was a real, genuine call.
I know.
And you're
said, I've got your number.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten the password, Dad.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, they all say that. Well, very quickly, I've been away for 2 weeks and I've not quite been up to speed with what they're calling the Taylorgate story.
Oh, yes.
This VIP police blue flashing light escort. Is this a big story? Is this going to go anywhere?
I'll tell you what's really odd, Richard. The Attorney General is the most senior law officer in the land. Why the Attorney General was called in to intervene, because the police said that giving Taylor Swift the blue light...
Not protocol.
Not protocol. It was when he intervened... What's his name, Lord?
Richard Hermer.
Who was a great mate of Starmer's, a surprise appointment. I'm astonished that he got involved. It's very odd.
And we'll talk about that at the end of the show because, Kevin?
I think it's much ado about nothing. She got motorcycle outriders in Cardiff and Edinburgh for a festival. A week before, gigs were cancelled in
Prince
Vienna
Harry.
because of a suicide bomb plot.
Prince Harry has been going to court at his own public expense because he wants the sort of protection.
No, that's
Taylor Swift
automatic. It's automatic
Well,
protection.
it's a similar thing.
No,
I bet he will be watching every word of this court case.